Welcome back to In the Street Trades, where we give a blue-collar view of a white-collar world. My name is Rob, and today we have our first person joining the channel who will be a staple, Sir Vince. How are you, man?
What's up? What's going on, Rob?
I'm fantastic, man.
Man, it's been a journey.
It
This
has been
this
a
has
journey.
been this has been a bit of work.
You have two middle-aged men here who just spent the past 2.5 days trying to figure out how to do this. But what is going to be different about this broadcast is we're going to lose Vince, and then he'll come
No,
back.
we're not losing it.
We're at the end of the work week. It's Friday. Markets are closed. This is the blue-collar fellows. It's happy hour time. So I see you got your drink up.
Yep.
I got my
Yes.
non-marketed drink up. Yeah. And
I go the full-blown alcoholic style.
so, like I had told people previously in my first GME video that I posted about 6 days ago, GameStop video, that there was definitely going to be a part 2. And I wanted the part 2 to be with you. And I wanted to be in this situation because you and I have a unique connection to GameStop.
Yep. Yeah, I watched the video, and I was actually there during the FuncoLand buyout. I was a FuncoLand employee.
You're old Funko.
Oh, I built Funko here in Northeast Ohio. Yeah.
So give him
Yeah.
a little history, man. Tell
Oh,
who is Vince, man?
Well, currently, or who was Vince?
That's a good question. That's a good point.
At the time when I started GameStop, or I'm sorry, not GameStop. I actually started.
You made it sound like you created the company. At the time I started GameStop.
At the time when I started GameStop, started with GameStop.
Right.
Started with GameStop. No, I was probably one of the first, I'd say I was 1 in 10 of the first employees of FuncoLand. When they first came here to Cleveland, I know you talked mostly about GameStop in the first video. FuncoLand was a Minnesota-based company.
Right.
Very, very. It was basically, it was a large company that operated more like a small business. At any given moment, I could pick up the phone and literally talk to the owner. Couldn't do that with GameStop.
No.
Not when GameStop took over. And it made for a really great atmosphere. I was one of the first employees with them. I assisted a district manager, the district manager at the time. I assisted him in opening just about everything in Northeast Ohio. I wasn't the only one. There were a couple other players, actually one other player at that time. So he and I pretty much were what created FuncoLand in Northeast Ohio.
So
and,
how long were you with how long was FuncoLand before
GameStop bought him out? Yeah. I want to say, man, it was a long time ago. I want to say 2 to 3 years. I want to say 2 to 3 years. And at the time, from the FuncoLand standpoint, it kind of came out all at once. Like one day we're FuncoLand, then we get a phone call the next day. Hey, we're being bought by GameStop.
There was no rumblings about it, or
nothing at all. It
Wow.
kind of popped out right out of the blue.
See, I don't think that would happen like nowadays.
Oh, hell no. Nowadays it would be all over the internet.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, it kind of popped out of nowhere. And at the time, none of us knew what to expect. We didn't know if everything would change. We didn't know if anything would change at all. Everything changed.
Oh, yeah.
Every damn thing changed. Because you were a Funko guy too, weren't you?
Well, I was always a GameStop guy.
Oh, so you were brought in after the buyout.
Yeah. But I was brought in. I was brought in by Funko personnel, so I had the heart and the vision and the
you had the
guidance of
The
a
culture.
Funko. Right, the culture of a
the
Funko.
culture of Funko, yeah.
In fact, the very first store I worked at still had a giant Funko Land sign hanging on the wall.
Parma.
Yeah.
Parma, I opened that store. I opened it. That was my store. Yeah. Yeah, I opened that one. The one outside the mall.
Yeah.
That's my store, baby.
That's me, man.
Like
I said, when I started GameStop. So, like, well, let's tell them a little bit about how you and I know each other first, before we dig deep into the GameStop tales, because the war stories are there.
We got to walk through the retail world.
Oh,
yeah. Well, you know, all right. How I met you
is through a mutual party, right?
Was after my Funko GameStop stint. Yeah, I was looking for, but at the time I was working for another retailer, and I needed employees. We didn't have any damn employees.
I think
I could probably
we could say it, because that retailer's out of business.
It's not even gone. It's gone. They're not
right.
around. Yeah. I was working for Hollywood Video.
Okay.
which now that they're gone, good riddance, because that was probably the absolute worst company I've ever worked for in my life. But anyways,
I also think that was location based, man, because
I don't know, man.
That location was pretty awful.
It did have a lot to do with it, but I don't know if that was the total reason for it. Come here. I don't know if that was the total reason for it, though, because what killed me on them was, dude, take care of this.
Blue collar world, man.
I'll be right back.
Oh, no worries. So, like, Vince was saying, is like him and I met each other at Hollywood. Now, he was looking for an associate. He was looking for. He was building a team. I believe he was the store. You were the store manager at the time at Hollywood, correct?
I was the store manager at that Hollywood Video at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was actually. I was uneffing it, for a clean way of putting it, and I needed employees.
Right.
And of course, you know, when you're in the retail world, guys who've worked retail, they know, you pool ideas from each other. You kind of stay, you build relationships in the retail world. And the gentleman, I called a friend of mine who I worked with at Funko Land, who, and I'm like, hey man, you got any applicants? And he's like, well, I got a guy who I would have hired on the spot, but I didn't need any employees at the moment. And then he sent me your resume.
See, like a little deeper into that story is like he would have hired me at that time if he needed employees. He would have hired me at that time if one of my best friends wasn't already working there, and he knew that.
That was it
about. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Like, yeah, I do. Our New Year's Eve buddy.
Yeah. So I ended up getting hooked up with you. Like, came in for an interview. By far the most fun interview I've ever had in my entire life.
I had a blast my damn self, man. Well, I mean, I mean, considering the applicants I was getting,
yeah.
I mean, you were like a breath of fresh air, man. I mean, you gave it, you cared.
You cared. Well played, man. Well played.
You cared. And you had it, and you're intelligent,
I think the greatest moment in that interview is you look at me and you're like, so what would you say are your greatest? What's your biggest weakness? Is what you.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, because I knew your answer was such BS. That's why it was so awesome.
Well, at the beginning, like when you asked me, I laughed. I started going.
You did.
And you're like, you're like, what's so funny? I'm like, well, what
funny?
I was like, what answer do you want? do you? He's like, well, what's so funny? I'm like, well, look, I was watching this interview a few nights ago, and this was back in early.
Oh, it had to be
2002, 2003.
It was definitely after the 90s. I know that for sure.
Yeah, so early 2000s. And I was watching.
Let's say 01, 02.
Right. So I'm watching this interview on. I tell you, I'm watching this interview on TV, and it was with Hillary Clinton at the time, and this is when Bill was president, and she's up there looking kind of robotic and stuff, and they ask her the exact same question. They're like, "So what is your greatest weakness?" And she goes, "Well, I guess I'm just too passionate about what I believe in." And that's exactly what you gave me, dude. You just started laughing.
I just care too much.
Right. So, like, you have your chuckle, and then you're like, "No, but seriously, what's your greatest weakness?" I go, "Well, I guess I'm just too passionate about what I believe in." I laugh it off, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have it."
I was just gonna say, I believe you followed up with, I really just don't have any.
Right.
You weren't lying, man. You were the best. I mean, well, when I hired Rini.
Yeah.
When Rini was working for me, with your sister, the DM came into me, and she's like, "Do you know they're brother and sister?" I'm like, "So?" I don't care. I've got 4 people on the payroll with the last damn name. Nobody's gonna figure it out.
So what's crazy is, like, I worked for you there, and it was about 6 months before you ended up going to another place.
I went to Game Crazy.
Game Rush.
Their game. No, it was Game Crazy.
Game Crazy. Game Rush was Blockbuster.
That's right. Yeah, it was Game Crazy.
You went to Game Crazy, which was their gaming their rollout.
It was their answer. It was their answer for GameStop. and it didn't make it.
Well, it's that's like when Blockbuster tried to do their online service in an answer to Netflix. It's like too little, too late.
You mentioned that. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. You mentioned that in the first video. Yep.
So you went there.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I stuck out where I was. Absolutely hated the store, man. It was awful, and ended up leaving. Because I got a phone call from the same guy who recommended me to you, and he's like, "Hey, I got a management position," and I'm like, "Dude, I've never been a manager in my life." He's like, "Ah, it's fine, you'll be all right." So that's how I ended up starting at GameStop, and that was 2004.
Come on, you were my ASS man.
That's true. It's true. So
seriously though, you are by far the best employee I ever had the pleasure to manage.
I appreciate
it. And just about every employer that I've worked for, I've recommended you to, and they would probably hire you in a heartbeat just off of my recommendation. So,
you were always a really good salesman, is what it was.
Yeah. See, now that meant a damn thing at FuncoLand. Why? Because sales meant something at FuncoLand.
Right.
See, the thing with FuncoLand, the biggest difference between, say, FuncoLand and your GameStop, FuncoLand they were a company for profit. Mm-hmm. The thing of FuncoLand, their margin was huge.
Right.
They bought low, they sold high, they took their stock, they moved it all around the cities. They had a distribution center in Minnesota. If one store had too much of one item, one title, they'd bounce it to another store. That was the way they worked. They had margin down. They knew how to be profitable. When GameStop took them over, sales didn't seem to matter for GameStop, at least in my opinion at that point. GameStop was from the very beginning, in my opinion, after the buyout, it felt as from the very beginning, it was a stock company.
You're talking before the EB merger too, huh?
This would be before the EB merger. Yes. Wow. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It always had the feel that whatever happened in the stores was just micromanaged, remedial, going over just enough to appease vendors, just enough to appease pretty much vendors. Like they would sell Funko never did this, but GameStop did. They would sell end caps. They would have specific planograms that were pretty much designed by the vendors and not so much them. A lot of times they didn't make sense for the store. They became a stock company. They were concerned about their stock prices and their share.
What was
in their shareholders? They really didn't truly. I don't really think they truly cared what went on in the stores. I really don't.
What was your last year there
at GameStop?
Yeah.
Oh man, year in. Man, I'll be honest. I don't know. I'd really have to think about that. And I'm like,
because I want to say
2 to 3 bourbons in.
It's Friday, man. What are you gonna do?
It's Friday.
So, like, because I want to say they went publicly traded in 2002. That's why I was wondering, like.
I think that this would have been past that, yeah. Because I had a few stints with GameStop. I was with FuncoLand. Then there was the buyout. Okay, now GameStop
right. You came back for a while.
I came back.
Yeah,
I came back.
I do remember that. You and I roomed together in Texas.
That's right.
So every year, GameStop would hold a conference, a store managers conference, where they would fly all the store managers to a city. You'd have every vendor under the sun, Microsoft, Capcom, whatever.
They would give you free swag,
all the stuff.
Free swag, and they'd get you drunk as hell too.
Oh man, it was wild. So,
dude, I remember
yours was my very first conference. You know that? Was with you.
Yeah, it was.
And it was in fact, I blame.
It's like your very first conference is like anesthetic. It's never good as the first time, and you never forget it.
No.
So it was awesome.
Well, I never remembered it. Is what it was.
Yeah, just like anesthetic.
So actually, true story. To this day, I blame partial loss of vision in this right eye on the third night of that conference, dude, because we were just hammering back and hammering back. I woke up the next morning, couldn't see right.
You're kidding me, and you still can?
No.
Wow,
Dude.
Did it have anything to do with the floor is lava? They screwed up our room, and we wound up getting it was like some executive suite.
It was
or
a
something.
Skyline executive suite with a skyline view of Dallas, man.
It was beautiful. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, that was the nice ass room. I remember I came home one night. Well, not home. There was conference, so I came back to the room, and the door was like wide open. I walk in. You're fully clothed on the bed. Your feet are on the floor, and you're laying like these are your feet, and you're like laying like this on the bed. And I'm like, Rob, what's going on?
It's conference, baby.
Conference, baby.
See, that's what happens when you bring Funko to GameStop.
The Funko people were the partiers.
It was a dangerous dynamic.
Well, I remember at the time, 50 Cent, the 50 Cent game came out. What was it called? Die Trying or something?
Live Free. Something. That was the movie, I think. It was like, no, that was Bulletproof.
Bulletproof. Yeah. Anyways, there was the 50 Cent game that came out. And I remember the night before, I want to say was it Acclaim or Midway who produced it?
Nonetheless, I would think it was Acclaim, maybe.
All right, let's just say
whatever
it was, whoever produced it. The night before, they threw this monster party for us. All right, and it went on at like 2-3 a.m. I mean, it was a killer party. So the next morning. My first vendor show to go to was for that game. So I get there, and I got there late because I was hungover.
Right.
And everybody sits in, and then I sit down, and then they dim the lights and they show us a damn video. In the club starts popping up, and I'm in the front row because I came late and there were no seats left, and I'm in the front row, and I just start dozing off. So I flat out fall asleep, So the show, the vendor show ends and it goes on and the lights come on. He's like, all right, what can you guys tell me about the game? And then the guy turns to me and goes, except for you who slept through the whole damn thing. And I just look up at him, man. I look up and I said, dude, it was your damn party the night before that did this to me.
You're the catalyst.
You know, what are you right? I'm like, if you wanted to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, why were you feeding me shots all damn night? And he's like, yeah, that's what this game's about.
Up in the club, man. Come on. What do you expect?
Like in the club, all right.
They never released the sequel, which is the post-club hangover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
In the tub.
Oh, in the tub, yeah. So awesome. No, like I remember because every vendor had a room, and one of the funniest experience I ever had was with Disney. So like Disney, they're bringing you in, and you at the time, this is before they owned Marvel and like all the cool stuff, and you're sitting down, you're watching Lizzie McGuire, you're watching Hannah Montana. You're just like, God, come on, man, get me out of this room. And the lights come up, and there's this guy standing there. He's got like a suit on and stuff. He's like, so you're probably wondering why we put those movies in a vault, keep them in there for 20 years, bring them out, sell them for 4 times the amount. He's like, why? Because we're Disney, that's why. And we could do that. I was like, oh, all right. Awesome. You got my attention, man. You got my attention. So
hold on, I got a refill. Give me a sec.
Do what you gotta do, man. So him and I obviously have many war stories when it comes to game stuff, but the perspective that's shared is a little crazy. So I guess ultimately what I was trying to do with this was to relay a message of like how it goes into the future, but truthfully I think people kind of like would enjoy more of us just sharing sharing war stories, dude.
Let me bring it back. Let me bring it back to the buyout. We'll go from there. Okay. When GameStop originally took over, we actually called it the killing of the Jedi at the time, because FuncoLand was a serious sales based atmosphere. It was all about sales. It was all about profit. You were compensated handsomely. If you were a damn good salesman, you could write your own ticket, man. You could walk on water.
Right.
They would bend over backwards for you. Why? Because of the golden rule.
Who has the gold makes the rules.
Makes the rules. Exactly. And they followed it, and they took care of you,
But
GameStop, whole nother animal.
Yeah.
When they took over, it became corporate. It became about media bag audits. It became about compliance is basically what it became. The whole human element was taken out of it. You were just an employee. That's all you were.
I think the best example of that is like, I remember there's this one thing that had to be done. I can't remember the name of it off the title on hand report. All right.
Title on hand. Yeah. You had to scan every damn item.
You had to scan every damn item. Right.
Yeah. See, Funco did the same thing, but
which is fine.
Counts.
But
they were doing it for inventory reasons.
But this was my issue with it. Even if it was like, let's say it was a genre or a platform that wasn't necessary, they wanted you to do it. And let's say it was like the N-Gage, the Nokia N-Gage, where there's 9 games.
Haven't moved one in like 6 months.
Never sold one. I sold one in like the 7 years I worked for that company. All right.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's why it was that way though, because FuncoLand was for profit. GameStop owed people.
Oh yeah. It's,
You know,
it's
I mean,
partnerships and trying to build brands.
yeah, man, I forget the term co-op. They used to call
Co-op,
it. That was
yeah.
the term co-op.
So,
it was all about co-op.
But my issue is this: is like, let's say you had that department that you're supposed to do a title on hand for, and you can clearly look over and see, yep, all 9 N-Gage games are there. We're
because
good.
No one's freaking buying them.
If you didn't scan them, it didn't show up on a report, and on their report they would get knocked against, and they're like, oh no, we can't get knocked against because that takes our rating down, and that's what matters. It's like, no, that's not what matters. What matters is sales, dude.
Well, in their defense, they wow, I can't believe I'm defending.
Oh, here we go. I always play the devil's advocate defense.
In their defense, it had all on hands had to do with allocation. It had to do same reason why we probably. All right, I'm not going to say that.
No. So that's inaccurate. Let's
not go there.
All right, wait. That's accurate for FuncoLand. That's not accurate for GameStop. Title on hand.
No, it kind of is.
No. Title on hand was not for allocation purposes. Title on hand was for floor representation purposes. Allocation was done straight through the POS system. So no, it had nothing to do with it.
So it had to do with sales then. Okay,
no, it had to do to say, hey, this title is represented on the floor. If you can look over and be like,
correct.
all 9 titles are there, there's no purpose for it. That's just a sheet, you know? That's just a mark on a sheet.
Mm-hmm.
You know? All right, that's just dumb nitpicking.
Right. We're drinking.
Hey,
is what it is.
It's Friday.
Anyways, so when the atmosphere of when GameStop took over, they bought FuncoLand for their margin. It was no secret. It was out in the open. That's what we were told. That's what the owners of FuncoLand told us, you know. And we were bought out not too terribly longer after the Software Etc. buyout.
Yeah, it was 3 years.
If I'm not mistaken.
3 years after.
All right. So really, okay. That's when they bought Funko.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, the rumors flying around at the time were that the Software Etc. people, there was some huge stock thing, and everyone who was like upper management for Software Etc. got, they got some good stock options. Right. They got paid. Yeah, that didn't happen for FuncoLand employees. No. We were eliminated like Anakin was killing Junior Jedi. That's what happened to the FuncoLand guys.
Now, you watched through the video I posted, correct? So, like, as well as I that the entire history that they built, you have the same groups of people buying and purchasing and selling this. This was a club, and Funko wasn't in it. Funko was purchased, like you said, specifically and solely for the margin. That's why.
That's right.
Let's get rid of that club. They're gone. We don't need them. Mm-hmm. We just need their money. So
that's all they wanted.
If you weren't Software Etc. or Babbage's, you were done. Now GameStop.
That's right.
And GameStop was created to like pull it all together. Because you had Software Etc., you had Babbage's, and then you purchased.
Well, it's antiquated the way you say that, because they were created to pull it all together for the sake of high stock prices.
Well, yeah,
for
sure.
Nothing to do with the retail establishment.
For sure.
They did not give a damn about the stores.
No. It was a consolidation
all they cared about the stores.
Move.
Yes.
That's all
correct,
it was.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they consolidated because, like, the same guy who ended up purchasing Software Etc. or Babbage's was the guy who sat on the board of Barnes and Noble. So he bought.
Man, I used to remember do you know his name offhand? I used to.
No.
The guy was a stone cold hippie, long hair.
He bought this company for $58.5 million, right? They bought FuncoLand, went public with GameStop, and then he wants to sell GameStop to Barnes and Noble, the company he sits on the board for. And it was really wishy-washy.
I remember that guy's name.
And he sold it for $285 million, and they approved it. That's insane.
Yeah. Dude, I totally fell fell asleep during that guy's speech at the
Oh,
damn
I remember
conference, too. What the hell was his name?
Yeah.
The hell was his name? He called me out too, and then I called him out. He did that BS thing. Oh wait, hold on. Wait. I'm gonna grab some chalk here.
Oh, okay.
He did this thing. I remember it. I remember it was during the thing. He said, all right, here's how the company's works. You see that? All right, we've got all you employees down here who work in the stores. And then there's us up here, the owners up here. But you see, this is wrong. This isn't the way it really should work, because it should really look, and he did that. This is exactly what he did. He said, it really, I'm not in the store. I don't sell any games. I don't sell any games at all. I'm not making the company money. It really should work like this.
Either way, it's a pyramid scheme.
Here, yeah, he didn't BS you at all. He just, this is what's going on. He goes, and I really should be at the bottom down here. And then I remember, after he broke my balls about sleeping through his BS, I said, okay. I said, well, if that's the way it works, why does the pay scale go the other way?
Right. Can we flip that around?
If we're, I mean, can we do something about this? Because here's what kills
is it
me.
Dan Mateo? Matteo?
That's it. Yes, that's it. Yes, Dan Mateo.
Matteo.
Dan Mateo.
Right.
Long hair.
Yeah.
Bill Chin was his underling.
Who ended up becoming he was the president of GameStop once it started up.
Bill Chin was?
Became Bill Chin.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. Now I had many a dinners side by side. Bill Chin and I had some battles because he used to love to put down FuncoLand. Loved to. He's like, it's like a video game cleaner store that also sells games. Now I'll give him a little bit of due respect. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. We shoved him down your throat.
Dude, I remember. Was it your story or our mutual friend who was talking about the Nintendo system with the video game cleaner? Like on Christmas Eve, the mother comes in to buy the system, and they only had enough money to either buy a game or a cleaner kit. Was this you or was this him?
I would not put it past either of us.
So the commission on a cleaner kit was like 8, 9, 10%, something like that. Something crazy, right?
No. It was actually pretty dope. We got $2 or $2.50 per cleaner. It wasn't, there was no percentage. Well,
right,
when
it's a dollar amount.
over, there was a percentage, but it was a dollar amount. For cleaners and subscriptions, it was $2.
Right.
I think it was $2 to $2.50. So
I remember the story went. They came in to buy the system.
But basically, for $15, you were getting a 1-year warranty on any damn thing you bought from us for a year. Right. I mean, it's not like we were just, it was a good deal.
But the point of the story was it was Christmas Eve. You sold a system, and you sold them the warranty cleaner kit, and they walked out without a game because they thought it was the greatest deal in the world. Meanwhile, that kid opens that system on Christmas Day, and they're like, oh,
he's got
great.
Nothing to
Here's
play
your
with.
Cleaner kit. And Vince is sitting there with his money like, oh, buddy.
Hey. You know what that kid got?
What?
That kid got peace of mind for the rest of the year that anything he bought, we were going to exchange.
So it's kind of like a cleaner company that sells insurance.
He didn't get nothing for his $15.
And that's another thing. Like once the change. All right, so
Rob, we sold memories. Sold memory.
Yeah. So.
Once the change happened, okay, all right. Well,
once the change happened, like, all right, so
I remember, like,
so FuncoLand owned Game Informer, right?
Technical. Yes, Game Informer was another major reason they wanted FuncoLand
because it gave them.
Game Informer was started
97.
Free advertising.
It was early.
I mean, Game Informer still is one of the biggest gaming magazines out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
right?
No, it is. It absolutely is.
I mean, honestly, I'm.
But my point was this: is so they made the purchase. Game Informer was there, and then they because they became a corporate conglomerate, they partnered it with their discount card, right? And you and I know as better than anybody.
Well, FuncoLand always had the discount. Always had the discount card. I think GameStop just picked up where we left off. Yeah.
Right, but they took it to a whole new level.
The magazine went up. Well, the price of the magazine went up after GameStop took over. However, the content of the magazine went up as well.
Okay.
It went from being that thick to being this thick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, well, maybe not that thick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was it was either way. Game Informer was a good buy.
Question is this:
it was a good buy.
Is when you were at FuncoLand or whatever, did you guys have sales goals for that, like your discount card, or was it free? At Funko.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, there was a percent. You mean was Game Informer free?
No. Like at Funko, you said you had a discount card that you had to push, right? You guys offered a discount card at FuncoLand?
Yeah. Well, the subscription, the discount card was a bonus subscription. 8-month subscription for $10. $10, and you got 10% off of any used item you purchased.
And what did you
Accessory,
pay? How much was it?
$10.
All right, it's $10. So $10, 8 months,
and we would give you 2 subscriptions in the store. You would get 8 more magazines mailed to you.
So nearly
and you got
a year.
10% off for a year.
So
you got 10% off for a year.
No,
the 10% was for a year.
My question
Why
is
it was
this.
only 8 subscriptions.
What was your sales goal for it, or did they give you one?
We didn't really have sales goals. We had we didn't have goals per how you would put it. Our sales goals weren't based off volume. They were based off percentages. X percentage of your transactions rang should have been subscriptions in cleaners.
And that's what GameStop became too. So like when I first started at
GameStop, they did it a little different. With GameStop, it was all about
subscriptions
and pre-orders. Is what GameStop pushed,
what I'm getting at is they still had a base number percentage that you had to hit. So like when I first started, like you had your pre-order numbers and you had your subscription numbers, right? And based on the amount of transactions you had, when I first started, your subscriptions needed to be at 4% and your reservations had to be at 8%. So for out of every 100,
really,
yeah, exactly. So
that seems low as hell.
For every 100 people that walked in the door, 4 of them should leave with a Game Informer and a card. And for every 8 people that walked, or 100 people that walked in the door, 8 of them should reserve a game.
Myself and a gentleman named Tim are laughing.
No. That was right. But that was the base. All right.
Okay.
By the time I left the company, the base, which was the bare minimum, which I understand. Like you're a salesman, you're like, there's no way I would ever hit those numbers. I'm way above that, right?
Way above, yeah.
The bare minimum when I left was 25% reservations, 16% subscriptions. One out of every.
Now that was more on par with that's more on par with where FuncoLand was, to be honest, and it wasn't hard to do at FuncoLand. It was a lot cheaper at FuncoLand though too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also feel like you had more time because you weren't inundated with all the nonsense you had.
FuncoLand. Well, see, we're talking about 2 different companies. I mean, FuncoLand. FuncoLand was the whole plan. The whole plan of FuncoLand was designed with customer interaction in mind. Like, for example, FuncoLand used to have the newspaper that had all the video games on it that existed with prices on them. not necessarily what we had in stock.
Yeah.
Everything on the wall was everything that existed, not necessarily what we had on stock. So you had to interact with a what we used to call them. I don't know. They had a term for it. The customer service representative. Let's just
a game advisor.
Game advisor. That's it. Yes, you had to interact with an individual if you wanted to shop there.
Yeah.
GameStop didn't do that. GameStop just didn't care about that. It was the personal experience was not important to them. It was just that the stuff was there. The store had everything. The store had everything that it was supposed to have there, and then that was it. It was kind of like self-service, which times change. They were getting away from the salesman aspect of things, I guess.
Right.
I mean, one thing they brought in that FuncoLand never did was merch in hand. That was a big thing with GameStop. That was not with FuncoLand. FuncoLand, everything was behind the counter.
Right.
GameStop brought in merchandise on the floor. Pain in the ass for employees because we had to, we were responsible for shrink. But on the other end of that, people do tend to buy stuff. People do tend to buy stuff when it's in their hand.
Oh, yeah.
So there was some good and bad between
There's a balance,
the two. Yeah, but the major difference between the two companies is FuncoLand was extremely customer service motivated, where GameStop was your stand. They were the Walmart of video games. Yeah. You walk in, we got it, it's here, pick it up, buy it, leave.
All right, so
but
real quick on that note, what I'm gonna do is I want to continue this. I want to make this a multi-part series because this video is getting pretty long, and
yeah.
we're gonna take it. We're gonna cut it right here as before we transition into the next phase of the true transition from Funko to GameStop. Because I feel like we're covering a lot of good history, a lot of good information, and you get a lot of good inside track to it too. So if you're good with that, I'd love to pick up with it and really.
I would. Can we go a little bit longer though? And just anyway, go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
I'd love to, man, but we're at about 42 minutes right now. And
wow. And my kids are getting restless.
No, we're talking YouTube videos, so. I want to, if you guys enjoyed this content, please leave a comment. Don't short the like button. We appreciate you watching it, and we will be back. So,
if you want to hear more,
if you want to hear more, I'm Rob. That's Vince. That's the boy. Thanks again, guys.